Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Thursday with Kumi. I am your host Kumi. On today's episode, we will be looking at the top 10 best opening day games in the NFL. The season is around the corner, so that's why I wanted to do this video. And if you haven't already, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. And without further ado, let's get this list started. Number 10. First Monday Night Football game. This game is not really on my list because of any great performance by a single player, nor was it a very heated competitive game. Rather, it was history in the making. In Week 1 of the 1970 season, the New York Jets would face the Cleveland Browns in the first ever Monday Night Football game. This is around the time where the NFL was making a huge transition. 4 years earlier, the first Super Bowl happened. Now 4 years later, the merger happened as the AFL and NFL came as one to make it into the NFL we know of today. So along with that, we have this football game where Joe Namath, who was football's megastar, being showcased. Now, like I mentioned, the game was just a regular game. Nothing too crazy as the Browns defeated the Jets 31-21. But this game would be the start of Monday Night Football becoming primetime television, as it has become a phenomenon and one of the highest rated TV programs on a weekly basis. Number 9. Thursday night, 2021. The defending Super Bowl champions Tampa Bay Buccaneers up against the Dallas Cowboys. This was a close game as Tom Brady and Dak Prescott had a pretty good duel of their own. Both QBs both threw 4 touchdown passes each, combining for 8 touchdowns and 782 yards. Going down to the wire, the last-minute drive from Tom Brady led the Buccaneers to a win, with Ryan Succop kicking a 36-yard field goal to win the game for them, as the final score was Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31, Dallas Cowboys 29. Number 8. Dan Marino vs. Washington Commanders. After coming off an impressive rookie season, Dan Marino picked up right where he left off, as he threw for 5 touchdowns, threw 311 yards, completed 21 out of 28 passes, and had a 150 passer rating against the Super Bowl 17 champions and 2-time defending NFC champions, the Washington Commanders. This would also set a tone for Marino and the Dolphins as they would go on to rewrite the record books, as Marino threw for 48 touchdowns, 584 yards on 64% completion, and would go on to win league MVP and lead the Dolphins back to Super Bowl 19. All this in his second year and only being 23 years old is the stuff of legends. Number 7. Jerry Rice, season opener, 1994. Jerry Rice started his career in 1985, but his rookie year was a struggle as he only caught 49 passes for 3 touchdowns and 927 yards. Although his career started off rocky, the next 8 years from 1986 to 1993 would be spectacular, as he recorded 10,849 yards, 659 receptions, and 115 touchdowns, with an additional 5 rushing touchdowns. And on 1994, in Week 1 of Monday Night Football, he would get ready to break Jim Brown's all-time touchdown record against the Oakland Raiders, and he would need 3 touchdowns to break the record. And needless to say, as he did, he had 2 receiving touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. And the TD that would break the record would be a 38-yard bomb from Steve Young to break Jim Brown's 29-year-old record, as the 49ers defeated the Raiders 44-14. Jerry Rice went on to have a great season, as always, and the 49ers would go on to win Super Bowl 29 at the end of the season. Number 6. O.J. Simpson, 250 yards versus the New England Patriots, 1973. We don't need to get into what many of you are thinking when you hear the name O.J. Simpson. It's something that's been spoken about ad nauseum, so we won't get into that. But I will get into how O.J. Simpson set the single game record against the New England Patriots and held for 4 years until Walter Payton broke it. O.J. was so good that day that he had more rushing yards than Patriots QB Jim Plunkett had passing yards, which was 226 passing yards. This will be the first of a record-setting season, as OJ would become the first running back to have the 2,000-yard milestone, as he rushed for 2,003 yards and would win league MVP. Number 5, 1950, Cleveland Browns versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Many of you know the AFL-NFL merger that happened in 1970, but what you may not know is that this is not the first merger that the NFL has been a part of, as the first merger happened 20 years previously back in 1950. The merger was with the AAFC, the All-American Football Conference, as 3 teams will join: the Baltimore Colts, which is the older Baltimore Colts before the current Colts that we have today, the San Francisco 49ers, and last but not least, the Cleveland Browns. The Browns were the most dominant team in that league, as they were the AAFC champions all 4 years that the league was around. Despite that, many thought the NFL would be overwhelming for the AAFC teams, including the Browns. And so going into week 1 of the 1950 season, the Browns franchise would play their first ever NFL game against the defending 2-time NFL champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, in Philadelphia Municipal Stadium. Now, unfortunately, as an Eagles fan, it sucks to talk about this game because the Eagles were upset, and it wasn't even close because the Browns defeated them 35-10. The main catalyst for this was Browns quarterback Otto Graham, who threw for 3 touchdowns to go along with 346 yards. If you want to talk about prime definition of putting the league on notice, look no further than this game. In the same season, the Browns would later finish the season winning the NFL championship. This would be the first of 6 consecutive NFL championship appearances, winning 3 out of the 6 seasons, including the 1950 season. Number 4, Peyton Manning 7 TD passes versus the Baltimore Ravens. On Thursday Night Football, the Broncos will kick the season off facing the Baltimore Ravens, which would be a divisional round rematch from the 2012 postseason, as the Ravens knocked them out of the playoffs. But coming into this game, and not having Ray Lewis being newly retired upon this game, and the Broncos offense making some new acquisitions during the offseason, Manning would take this game upon his hands to get his vengeance, and boy did he. No QB had thrown 7 touchdowns since Joe Kapp back in 1969. He also threw for 464 yards on 64% completion and passer rating of 141.1. This would set the tone for the rest of the season for the Broncos, as they had one of the greatest seasons an offense has ever had, as they would go on to become the highest scoring offense in the history of the league and go 13-3 and go all the way to the Super Bowl. Number 3, New England Patriots versus the Miami Dolphins, 1994. Another Dan Marino related game, but this one was a classic game. 10 years after his sophomore season, Marino would be going up a sophomore quarterback in Drew Bledsoe of the New England Patriots. You have to remember, Marino was making his return after his season ended earlier the previous year with a torn Achilles tendon. And after being gone for that long, Marino would make a statement about not losing a step, as him and Bledsoe went blow for blow, duking it out in South Beach. Marino yet again opened the season throwing for 5 touchdowns and 473 yards. But Drew Bledsoe didn't back down, as he also had a 400-yard passing game, throwing for 421 yards and 4 TD passes. But here's where the game becomes interesting. It's 4th and 5 on the Patriots 35. There's 3:29 minutes left in the game, with the Patriots leading 35-32 and Marino dropping back, throwing a 35-yard bomb to Irvin Fryer, which would become the game-winning touchdown, and the Dolphins defeated the New England Patriots. Although Bledsoe was an up-and-coming quarterback, Marino had to let him know who the Don was on that very day. Number 2, Norm Van Brocklin, 554 passing yards. On September 28, 1951, Los Angeles Rams quarterback Norm Van Brocklin against the now defunct New York Yanks, put up 554 yards, 5 touchdowns on 65 completion percentage as he led the Rams to a 54-14 win. The reason why this game is so high on my list is because no QB before this game threw for more yards than Norm Van Brocklin, and now 72 years later, since no quarterback has thrown for more yards than Norm Van Brocklin. Later on this season, they would go on to win the NFL championship as they defeated the defending world champions, the Cleveland Browns. Number 1, Garrison Hearst's run versus the New York Jets. Against the New York Jets, the San Francisco 49ers went at it at Candlestick Park. Jets quarterback Glenn Foley threw for 415 yards, and Steve Young also threw for 3 touchdowns and 363 yards. This game was so tight, and it went into overtime. And to start overtime, the unsung and unexpected hero Garrison Hearst scored a 96-yard rushing touchdown to end the game, and the Niners won the game 36-30. Many have considered this run to be one of the greatest runs in NFL history, and honestly, I can see why. That's it for today's episode. I'm your host, Kumi. Thank you for watching another episode of Thursday with Kumi. And once again, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below, and tell me what you think the best opening day games are. Until next time.